Hey, this is Nuno Betancourt of the band Extreme, and you are watching and listening to MK. Do not turn me off yet. Jesus, my home has come very much a musical environment. I'm the youngest of 10 kids, and everybody played something. Even if it was the doorbell, we made it a musical instrument. But everybody, I grew up, I was very lucky because my father played multiple instruments, and my brothers all played, my sisters played instruments and sang, my mother sang. So it was almost like I wanted to actually play football. I wanted to play for Portugal. I was supposed to be Ronaldo before Ronaldo. I think because the next level was songwriting, and not that you can't write songs with drums, but it's hard to write melodies and things like that with drums. So played bass for a band afterwards for a long time. Then I played some little bit of keyboards, and I ended up on guitar because I think it was the most expressive. You could be a rhythm player, you could be a solo player, you could play acoustic, you could play electric. So I think it's got the most, I don't know, it had the most, it offered me the most expression. I'm talking like mid to late 80s. The guitars that were out were all these like, one of my favorite players, Steve Vai, had all this like, it was all kind of like lime green and orange and very, yeah, very, very colorful, the guitars then. And the way it became a very simple guitar was that I didn't have a lot of money and I couldn't afford to buy a guitar, so I went to a music store to buy the parts, the body parts, the raw materials you get before you stain it, before you paint it. I could never really afford to do a paint job, so I just built everything really raw that way, put a neck together, put everything together, and I really just fell in love with how it aged and how the sweat and everything you do on it comes. And I just wanted a guitar that was like a workhorse, something not fancy, something that that will just survive a tour, because with Extreme we're a very physical band and we love to perform, and I don't know, I've been playing it for 25 plus years, and it became a great guitar for Washburn. They kind of saw me play in a club when I was really young and asked if I wanted to endorse them, and they wanted me to play one of their guitars, and I said no, you have to remake this one. And they told me that, they said no one will ever buy that guitar without paint on it. That's what they told me. And then it became the biggest selling guitar they had, and then a lot of other companies started doing it without paint as well, because I think there's some beautiful woods out there. Yeah, I had it on tour with me up until about 2 years ago, and now I can't take it with me because there's been a few close calls where people actually try to take it, even off stage while I'm playing, like before we play. And it's worth too much to me, and it's also become a very financially worth guitar because it's the first model of those guitars, and collectors always offering me to. So we put it away. I think basically being a band in Boston, where Aerosmith from, the Cars, all these great bands were coming out of there that we loved. We played clubs all the time. We never stopped. We just kept working and working and working. We weren't like, we didn't have dreams of like becoming rock stars and doing that. We knew that we wanted to be a great band first. And then, when you do that, I think the word gets out. It got all the way out to the West Coast, and record companies came to see us perform live, and really that's how we got a record deal, and that's how we got started. And we were always focused on the songs. We didn't just write 2 or 3 like a lot of bands in our neighborhood were doing to try to write hits. We just said, by the time we got our first record deal, I think we had 50, 60, 70 songs already written. Not that they were all great, but they were just, that's what we did, And I think that's what impressed the record companies, that these guys are songwriters, I never just wanted to be a guitar player. I was always that I'm a musician, or I'm a music lover, I'm a fan. I've played multiple instruments. I didn't want to just do my guitar tracks and leave, so I always paid attention to what, engineered things and what they sounded like. And I always knew that bands that I loved, like Zeppelin and Jimmy Page, produced that stuff, and he would always be very in tune with everything. And I didn't do it for that reason, but it was just natural. The band probably hated me for that because I just, down to every little detail, I was really concerned, and I loved being a part of it. So it was even more exciting. People were asking me, why would you do it? I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, here's an artist who's in an R&B kind of pop world and is saying, I already have all these hits, what would you do to them? And songs like Umbrella and Making It Rock More. So I got to ruin all her songs. It was incredible. Yeah, I felt like, and not only that, the rest of the guys that she had, when do you get a chance to play as a rock and roller, to get to play with a drummer who, when he's not with Rihanna, he's with Stevie Wonder, or or you know the keyboard players that play with jazz guys and then they play with R&B. I mean, there was so much talent up there that I was learning. I was in a different world. I was, you know, it was unique, really different for me. I mean, just to even be on a stage and have dancers. I mean, that was like, what is going on here? If coming from a rock background, it was fun. It was like it was kind of like a vacation from what you do, you know. Yeah, yeah. It was the first time we ever did that, and I never wanted to do that because I never wanted to just tour for the sake of touring. Like, let's just tour to be nostalgic, and to me, it was always about new music and being vital. Whether 10 people bought it or 10 million people bought it, it was just like that. That's what you do. You're creative, and all the bands that we love and we grew up with, the Queens and Zeps and Beatles. That's what they did. They made albums, but in this case, it was more of a scheduling thing. You know, like everybody's in different places in their lives, and we were approached to do a lot of bands were doing that. The biggest album, it wasn't a new thing. People were doing it, and I always said, I'm never going to do that. It's ridiculous. That's like a really phony reason to go and do it. And then we tried it, like, just because we didn't have an album. We said, well, I'm not going to just go on tour. Well, let's try. It's the anniversary of Porno Graffiti, and I'm like, I don't know. And when we did it, I actually genuinely enjoyed having fun, like actually trying to do it, trying to pull it off from top to bottom. And I thought, you know what? I got to let my ego go about what it means to other people and see what it means to me. And for me, it was like, if I was a fan, I would be like, wow, they're doing that album from all the way from top to bottom. And it was the album that put us on the map. It was the album that we're known for the most, and that's the sound that we came up with. And so it was fun. I didn't know it was going to be that much fun, but it was almost difficult and fun. It was kind of like becoming a bit of a cover band for yourself. I kind of like wanted to do that more than we did do it, because we didn't do it in a lot of things. Because sometimes it's hard to get. Look, I see the beauty in that, and it's tough to get a band to see it, and sometimes I remember playing it a couple of nights, and the fans were just like, it wasn't that they didn't approve. I don't even know if they recognized it, because we did it kind of the same, but a little heavier, And yeah, I want to record that version. I really like the version that we did. Playing on stage, and I look and I see Steven, Mr. Tyler, watching the band. So he always comes out for More Than Words. I'm very lucky that he loves that song, and he always mentions it. We got to do that one day together. We got to do one day together. So he comes into the dressing room in Milan right after our show, and we're talking. Duff walks by the open door, and they see each other, and all I hear is Steven go, "Are you gonna do it?" And Duff goes, "I'll do it if you do it." Not me being nosy. Go, wait, do what? And I'm like, whatever you're doing, I want to do it. And he's like, whoa, Steve goes, we're going to South Africa, we're doing this thing. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I gotta come. Steve goes, you gotta do it. And I go, only if you do. If I can do More Than Words, we'll do it. And so for the first time, we didn't do it during the rehearsal, but the first time I went to Steven's house 2 days ago, and we sat down and we sang it together for the first time, and it was incredible. For one of it's one thing to be a fan of a band, which I am of Aerosmith, but it's another to have that band that actually is one of the reasons why you play music in the first place, and then he's actually singing one of your songs with you. It's one of those like. It's actually, you can't even think too much about it, because it's almost like it didn't happen. And I had a videotape, her assistant videotape, just so I could see that did it really happen? It happened. Thanks everybody. We're on MK. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I hope to be back soon, back to South Africa, hopefully with Extreme one day as well. All right, catch you soon. Bye.